raise your hand, sir?
No, I'm just kidding.
We gotta have somebody take some notes. So,
They got paper with
so Gary, you take notes, Gary?
Sure.
Sure. I like that attitude. First of all, your minutes should have been in your packet. You had a chance to look at those. If any corrections or deletions or whatever that you should look at. Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor of the minutes, it's been presented to you, let me know by saying aye.
The motion first.
Oh, no, it's all good, I can't do so. Got a motion by Gary Walsh, and second by Richard Harris. Now, all those that support the minutes have been given to you, let me know by saying aye. Any no vote? Ayes have it. You got your financial report, will you? Let's look at that right quick. Go right down the total assets and look at the county general fund. This is at the end of April, 2 more months to go. County general showing $1,155,453. Urban services showing $1,052,183. Solid waste is hanging in there with $706,977. Towson County ambulance, $627,280. Special purpose report, $2,750. County drug fund, $60,966. The other two down there, we could go ahead and do the county highway, $1,107,926, and the public schools is sitting at $6,048,685. The federal projects is $111,000, and the central cafeteria, $219,000. Got the schools in pretty well doing.
Mr. Ford, may I
Yes.
speak to that?
Pardon? Yes.
Remember, some of that is restricted, non-restricted. I gotta pay $1 million in summer payroll.
Still leaves you $4 million.
Exactly, 4.2.
That's right, 4.2.
Yes, sir. Not 6.
The debt service is $709,850. Is that our debt service payment? It is, isn't it? And then the education debt service, which belongs to school, is $1,159,496.
The education debt service is ours too, is the 2002 high school loan.
I couldn't hear you.
The education debt service is ours as well, is the 2002 high school loan.
Oh, okay, thank you. You turn over to the next page and kind of keep in perspective what the budget is. And this being the 9th month, should be 83.33% of your budget down through there. The current property tax, which is over 100%, it's 101.53%. Discounted property was a little over 102. We go through every one of those. If there's anything down there you want to talk about, if you have time to look at it, if you turn to page 3 of this book, it shows you where we actually stand in this year's budget. We've collected 84.7% of the money we're going to collect or have collected for $4,913,193. Total revenues budgeted is $5,800,000. We still got 2 more months. We're running right on, almost right on it at 84.7 on the revenues. If you look through expenses, is anything down through there? like the sheriff's department grew at about 80%. Anything that's below 83.33% is really on the good side. And most of it is. If you turn to the next page, which will be page 4, we budgeted $6,594,617, and actually, up to now, $4,689,092 is what's actually been spent, or 71.10%. So overall, we're about 12% ahead of the game. So that's a big thing on that part right there. And if you look at urban services, they collected about 83%. The expenditures are only 62% on page 5. So they're doing rather well too. Solid waste, $1,064,411 in revenues, and have actually collected $709,789. So they're running a little bit behind on the revenues. But if you look down at the expenditures, $1,491,799 was what was budgeted. We've only spent $508,641, 34%. So solid waste is really doing good there. And the hamlets, they're considerably over the budget on revenues. We had budgeted $1,005,000, and we've already collected $979,635 for 97.41%. We still got 2 months to go. Expenditures, I guess, are a little bit ahead on that. Hindu's making money, so I guess they can afford to do off a little bit. Core Civic, we don't really have much to say to that. We got a little bit more on the drug fund this month. Those 16.5 actually had 7,500 for 66% of the budget in revenues. Expenses, we see $45,250. They've only spent $1,909 for 4.22%. Our debt service has changed a little bit this month too, guys. It looks like it's to be good. Revenue is $796,451. It actually received $802,130. Did some of that come from the sales? It didn't come from the sales. How did we get ahead on that?
Your investment income, I explained last month that the interest rates were higher this year, we'll go back down to what we know as a normal range.
Okay, so it's investment in there. Okay. Anyway, at 100% election, which is good. Expenditures, budget $791,747. Actually spent $139,406 for 55.5%. In debt service. That's still going to change too, isn't it? You've got several big ones coming up.
I had a lot of principal payments this month.
That's right. So probably next month you're going to see a big change in your debt service. The last one I've got is educational debt service. If you look at the budget on real tax, budget $330,000, it actually took in $258,703 at 78.40%. So that's down a little bit, maybe 5%. But that ain't much, and it can come back and take care of itself anyway. Expenditures are rather good, though. So there again, I'm sure that's going to change. $547,000, nothing was spent. $117,000. 26%, 2065. Split 16, 2263 for 61.3%. Total $690,000. Always spent 6.79%. I'm sure that's about to change too, isn't it?
Wrote the check today?
Yeah. Any questions on that? Financial report looks real good. Any questions or comments? If you look at your new paper, Miss Amy's given all of us for tonight, there's a bunch of budget amendments on it. Urban Service Services have been 2019-111-02FB, and it's a streetscape project, $25,278. Mayor, you want to speak to that just for a second?
Yeah. I have a copy of the email received. I think I sent them out to everyone. I apologize, they're not stapled together. This is an email exchange going back and forth between myself and the project engineers concerning some changes in construction estimates. We did get our paperwork in to TDOT. As I said, I think I said at the last county commission meeting, we submitted it in April. And we did that. Since we're getting ready to submit this to the federal government, who ultimately controls the funding, they had to go back and reconfigure the construction costs and since of all the construction, everything we've got. 440 in Nashville's under construction, 109 under construction. They're doing construction on I-40, so that's driven up construction costs in the area. And based on that, that drove up the cost of construction for our project. And since we're committed to, or have said we put in 20% of the construction cost to meet that 20% requirement, we will have to put in an additional, they said $25,277.90. And if we don't put in the 20%, well then the project will not go forward. We have to put in that amount. And then after, if this passes tonight and passes again on the 28th, I have to get the ordinance, Mr. Ford to sign that, try to get it in to them as soon as possible, because July 1st is TDOT's deadline, and we're trying to get in before other projects, so we'll hopefully be able to fund the queue going forward on that. But that's kind of how it's explained to me, is just we have to put in more because the construction costs have risen in 3 years since they figured it the last time.
Still meet the deadline.
We've already met the deadlines for everything. This is just a change when the engineers went back and refigured costs, because we have to do that in order for the engineers and TDOT to submit to the federal government for funding. When they refigured the cost with the increase in costs we've had the last few years, again, it drove up the cost. We have to meet that requirement. After we do that, TDOT's already said as soon as we send them our commitment that we're going to fund that amount, they're going to submit it to the federal government for funding of the project.
We don't have to send them money, just got to give them a commitment that we'll pay it.
There is no, they haven't given me any kind of construction time frame, but the federal government has given the state of Tennessee July 15th as the deadline for TDOT to approve construction for all these projects, or the federal government's going to take the funds and use it somewhere else.
A motion by Gary Clarity, second by Boone. Got a second by Gary Walsh that we approve the commitment of $25,278. Any discussion? I don't know when this will have to be paid. It may be 2 or 3 years from now. But all they want now is a commitment that we will pay it.
Well, that's just the overall cost. It's just part of the overall cost to begin with. It's just
Yeah,
increase.
and they did say this is just their estimate. Now, when they actually let out the bid, it could be more or it could be less, but this is just their estimate based on current market prices.
If we don't do this, we're gonna lose it all.
if we don't do this, we're not meeting the 20% threshold, so it will not be submitted for funding.
So we don't have any other choice.
Not if you wanna go forward with the project, no.
That's right. Any other discussion? Ready for motion, or the question? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, with the no vote? I guess it will be full.
Thank you.
The next budget amendment, 2019-118-03 FB, is overtime pay for the ambulance service. And this thing is written down here, the budget, overtime pay for the ambulance personnel was under budgeted according to the monthly trend FY 2019. The rate increase for FY 2019 was not factored into this time or line item in the budget was set. We anticipate another 20,000 for May and 20,000 for June.
That's coming out of their own budget.
Yeah, they'll come out of the line.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Richard Harris to approve the 40,000 for ambulance fund, and a second by Mr. Richard Jones. Any further discussion?
When was this missed? Was this missed by the budget as it was turned in? Was it too low to start with, or was it missed just because it didn't get on the docket like
It
you
didn't
hoped?
get on the docket.
Right, okay, so it was,
It was just a carryover from 2018, and
it was the first time. It was the first time. That's okay, that's okay.
Any other discussion? Yeah, sure are easy for that. Other than, ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, let me know by saying aye. Any opposed to the no vote? Motion passes. Then we got several, interest funds here. One on the general fund, 2019-101-20, year-end cleanup entries. Cleanup entries for salary and benefit line items for $15,135. And this is in general fund. You think there'll be more for next week, Ms. Amy?
by next week, no, sir.
Next month,
Next month,
probably?
that's all it'll have to come.
Okay. This is shifting money, it's not a big cost of one line, that is correct.
It is not a fund balance.
No, we're not drawing from fund balance.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Ferguson, and a second by Ms. Linda Johnson. Any discussion on this item?
We've got two part-time employees here. Who are they?
So the mayor's office line item, that's Miss Debbie, we budgeted her for a full year, she left in the middle. We actually budgeted after she had left. And the planning, that is, meant to be for Dwight Jewell, but he's not using any of it, so I'm taking a little bit of that line item to fund our others.
Any other comments?
Parks and Rec overtime, I was gonna say,
I don't know if it's going to anybody in particular, it's just that we know.
Is that where he stays in Washington? Well,
No, that's a budgeted item. That's not overtime.
Any more comments? motion? Yeah, we have a motion in a second. Bill made the motion, Miss Linda Johnson made the second. We got to keep this straight, Paul. We got to keep this straight.
It was a test, you passed.
Any other comments on this particular one? All in favor of it, if you don't say aye, then. If you're opposed, say no. Twenty 101-22 is custodial cleaning services. Moving funds from personnel to contracted services April and June.
Skip the Homeland Security, right?
Skip one.
Is this domestic? I guess it is. Now, go back to 2019-101-21 Homeland Security Grant, $1,833. Appropriating 2016 Homeland Security Grant proceeds. Any questions or comments on that? Mr. Harris.
Move to approve.
Mr. Harris makes a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Ms. Rachel Jones seconds. Any discussion on that? No discussion? No comments? Ready for the question? All in favor say aye. Any opposed by no vote? Now, we're going to one that I did speak. 2019-101-22 is custodial cleaning services for $5,000. Any questions? Comments?
How long a period is that?
Pardon?
How long a period of time is that?
I don't know, can you tell us, Ms. Amy?
3 months. They hired them in review.
It says April, May, June. It just could be 3 months. I have a motion by Gary Clarity. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Gregory. Any further discussion on it?
Is this the route we're going now? We're gonna use contracted deal here, so the employee, is this what's gonna go from now on?
Well, this is what we did to fill the vacancy. We actually are gonna save a few $100s, and we're gonna get 2 cleaning personnel for the price of 1 we had before. So we're gonna save, like I said, save a few $100, because once you add up our labor costs, state retirement, and everything like that, we're actually gonna save a few $100 going with this cleaning service. And I did put this out. I contacted 5 cleaning services. I got quotes from 3 of them, and this one came in under what we would have spent for hiring a replacement for a custodian who resigned. So that's
Are
where.
they local or?
Yes, they live kind of in the western part of the county. It's a husband and wife. They come in 4 days a week, and they're also currently cleaning up the community center on the weekends. And then when Mr. Odell's time reset, because he's limited to time since he's a former county employee, he's retired, he can only serve so many hours once that resets, and I think it's June 16th. Once that resets, he'll take over cleaning the community center, and then this service will just cover through the week.
Any more comments? Everybody sit through it all. Save us a little money there.
I will say, we did enter into a contract with them, but it ends the last day of this fiscal year. If we're gonna go forward, that it's in the budget to be discussed. So we're not contracted with them into the next fiscal year, just to finish out this current fiscal year.
Any other questions? Any vote? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with a no vote? Passes. Right, let's go to the urban services Fund 2019-11101. Year-end cleanup entries for salary and benefits line items for 2200. Sheriff's overtime, sheriff's social security, and sheriff's Medicare. Again, this is a bridge fund, it's not right. Commissioner Gregory makes the motion, and Commissioner Hart seconds it. Any questions, comments? No questions, no comments? You ready for the vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
For the Solid Waste Fund, 2019-11603, year-end cleanup interest for 3,800 for salary and benefit line items. And you've got this in your package as well. Any questions on this one? Do I hear a motion? I have a motion by Ms. Linda Johnson, second by Ms. Rachel Jones. Now, do we have any further discussion on it? No further discussion? Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a no vote? Next will be a highway fund, 2019-13104, year-end cleanup entries for 43,400. And I believe you have a list of all those, and it's an extensive list.
It's just moving his money around. It's just moving his money. That's money being moved around within this department.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. I have a motion by Ms. Linda Johnson, second by Mr. Richard Harris. Further discussion? Any further discussion? All in favor, let me know, say aye. Well, I guess we're down to the man by the name of Kevin Krasinski, reviewing the funding package for Tennessee municipal bond. Kevin, if you want to come forth and share with us your comments on that,
Thank you, Mr.
give
Chairman.
us straight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I appreciate the opportunity to be out here today. As the chair said, I'm Kevin Krasinski with the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund, and we appreciate you guys. And on behalf of Bones, our CEO, Wade, our CFO, Linda, and myself, we just appreciate the long history that we've had with Hartsville, Trousdale County. It dates back to, I know I've been invited here today, and you guys have an extraordinarily long agenda, and I just want to be mindful and respectful of your time. But I did want to talk about our history for a minute and hit a couple highlights, and then I'll get into the refunding proposal as you guys have it before you, if that pleases you, Mr. Chairman. So, dating back to 1995, Hartsville, Trousdale County and the Bond Fund have worked together on 18 loans totaling $25.9 million. The variable rate loans that we have with you guys that are in our pools, as well as our new variable rate program where it's directly placed with banks, have saved you guys $3,360,150 in interest costs over the life of those loans. That's laudable. Those are substantial funds that you guys have been able to reinvest in your community, so we appreciate the opportunity to be part of those successes. Today, you are paying on those loans on the 2002 school loan which is outstanding at about $1.7 million. As Amy said, she made a payment this month on the principal, so there's about $1.7 million out. Today's current rate is 1.74%, including the variable floating interest rate, as well as the letter of credit fee and remarketing fee and administration fee that goes on top of those. The 2016 loans, the school and justice center, we have them out separate, and those are currently 2.35% at today's interest rate, and that includes a 1.35% variable rate as well as a 1% spread, since the new program does direct lending to banks. As I mentioned today, you guys are looking at refunding 3 of the loans that we have outstanding with you, the 2002 schools and the 2016 schools and Justice Center loans. Together, those total $5,755,000. We are able to provide you with a fixed rate that's locked in for the remainder of the term on those loans today. We broke them out into separate things just for your purposes, and as well as I did it the accounting purposes. Most people keep schools and jails separate in their funds. So the shorter loan, the 2002 loan that's been outstanding longer, we can lock in a 3.36% interest rate through the remaining term, which is June of 2022. The 2016 loans, I guess, $2.4 million for schools and $1.6 million on the Justice Center. We have the ability to lock in those interest rates for the remainder of the term at 3.77%. We did have to shorten the term on those by 3 years because the bank was only willing to go out for 15 total years. So it does help you get out of debt a little bit faster on those loans. But the annual debt service is a little bit higher than if you'd gone out the full remaining 18 years on those. I'm pleased to be able to offer those to you today with an upfront cost of $32,816. The bond fund was created by cities and counties for the by the boards of the Tennessee Municipal League and the County Services Association for the sole purpose of providing a cost-effective method for local governments to borrow. The way we are able to do that and offer a $32,800 upfront closing cost is because we're not financial advisors and we're not underwriters. So the two of the largest components that you would get in any other situation, and I know that you guys have heard from other people about the potential refunding as well. So we were able to take 2 of the largest upfront costs out of that equation in order to save you guys money up front. The biggest differences that you'll see in what we have and what we can offer compared to what you guys might have heard in the past are 3 main things. Number 1 would be the rates that I've told you today are going to be good if the commission is to move forward. The rates that I told you today will be good until closing. So the 90-day notification on the refunding of the variable rate bonds, these rates aren't going to change in that 90-day interval. So that'll be one of the biggest differences. Most of the competitive sales, you're not going to know the interest rate that you're going to get until the day that the bonds are sold. So that's a big advantage that we have. A second big advantage that we're able to offer by listening to our city officials and county officials is that a lot of people did want to get out of debt early if they had revenues available. So all of our loans, you can pay additional principal at any time with no penalty. This is up to 20% of what's outstanding in the year. So if you do have additional revenues come in, or there's revenues in fund balance that you feel would be better programmed and better served getting out of debt early, then you can just let us know that you'd like to pay additional principal on the loans, and we'll apply it down and pay off your loans faster that way. The third big thing that I generally see when I'm out in these markets and talking to people and getting to know the communities in this state is, and this is the big reason we're created, is that closing cost issue. People felt that they were paying way too much to get money up front. So we were able to create a more cost-effective program by doing everything in-house. We have bond counsel taken care of. All administrative fees and issuer counsel's costs are included in that $32,000. So that amount is what you're paying at closing if you were to go forward with us today and give us the opportunity to maintain your business. being respectful of your time, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'll stand for any questions that anybody might have right now, but that does conclude my prepared comments.
We're on the variable rate right now,
Yes, sir.
and it's, what is our variable rate as of, I think it changes about every so often.
Yes, the 2002 loan is in the Bailey pool, so that rate changes daily, and the way it works is, the daily average of the month will be sent to you, and that is your monthly interest rate. You divide that by 12, of course. Today's rate is 0.93% on the daily.
That's a high school, isn't it? So 2002 is a high school rate.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I believe. The 2016 loans are in our new program, which is based on a public index called SIFMA. And that, if you Google it, you'll pull it up right now. It's 1.35%, and that resets weekly. So every Wednesday afternoon, about 3 o'clock, they send us a new SIFMA rate. So it works the same way. We'll get 4 of those that take the average of the month, and that's your interest cost for the month. So all in, this month's average on your daily rate has been 1.37%, for an all-in interest rate of 2.13% per month. And then SIFMA 1.35, like I said, today's rate will be 2.35%.
This is something we've discussed before, commissioners. All we hear is that bond money, interest money is going to go up. And we don't know what it's going to be, but it probably will go down in it. So it's like rolling the dice. Take a chance on where you are, variable rate. We have another gentleman come talk to us. Mayor, wasn't he at 2.50 or 1.5? I think it was 2.50 already.
To be honest with you, I don't remember off the top of my head. We've had,
I'm almost sure it's 2.50. And I believe it was Mr. Jewell in one of our meetings asked us to check with these people here and then see what kind of deal they could give us if doing a fixed rate. Who knows what it's going to do? I don't. I certainly wouldn't do nothing for the high school loan, period, because it's going to mature a couple more years. May the 5th, 22, it'll mature. And the others is something you might want to think about. If you had any questions, man's here, it's time to ask them. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What was the block rate again?
On the 2002 loan, 3.36. On the 2016 loans, 3.77.
Total cost actually that was what?
$816.
So you're telling us we can lock in $4 million at 3.77
Yes, sir.
for 15 years?
For 15 years, and then if we take out the, if you're just talking 2016 loans, you back out 8,600 in closing costs, so it'd be about $24,000 in closing costs. And yet it's 3.77%, sir, for 15 years.
You can pay up to 20% additional principal per year,
Yes, sir.
no penalty.
No penalty.
That's one good thing about it, is we don't have the funds right now to do it anyway. Or if we had the funds, we could start paying on it, pay it off quickly.
We've had quite a few of our borrowers that take advantage of that provision, and if they 100,000 unforeseen comes in, they're like, hey, we got 100,000 extra dollars, we'd like to pay additional principal. Yes, sir.
I'm sure they're gonna wanna think about it, but if you have any questions, man's here.
And I'm gonna stay here for the rest of the meeting, and, unless you guys kick me out, of course. And but I'm available for any questions. I know this is a lot to digest at one time, so I'm happy to hang around and answer any questions that you guys might have individually. Yes, sir.
So what would that payment run here on?
On the 2016 school, the annual debt service is about $230,000 for the first 3 years, and then it drops off. We tried to mimic the same principal redemption from the original schedule, just because we figured that was something that the county did on purpose, purposefully. So $230,000, then it drops down about $10,000 every 3-year interval, down to $176,000 in the last year. The $1.6 million outstanding on the Justice Center annual debt service is about $150,000 the first 3 years, dropping in $2,000 increments per year down to $122,000 the last year that it's outstanding.
Do you have a comment, Ms. Jones?
I have a question. I know you said that the rate would be the same for the 90 days until it locked in.
Yes.
But how long is that offer for that rate good for?
When's your next county commission
Who is
meeting? It'll be good, and then after that,
Yeah, I mean, is it good after the 28th?
yeah.
I mean,
It'll be good through the next county commission meeting. So today's the 16th.
You're talking about the May meeting or the June meeting?
What's the June meeting?
May, 28 days, the calendar on it.
I know it'll be good through the May meeting. I will talk to the bank to make sure they lock it in for June 24th.
June 24th.
June 24th. Let me double check with the bank and just make sure, but I'm pretty sure we can work that out.
Do you have a lot of people doing this, it's opting off the variable rate to the fixed rate that you got, or is it most?
But, well, a couple of borrowers recently have gotten out of the variable rate, and they did so probably at the beginning of the year. There was usually we see 2 spikes throughout the year in variable rate. Right at the end of the calendar year, the variable rate starts drifting upwards. And then right after tax time, it's inevitable, right after tax time, for whatever reason, leading up to tax time and right after it, the variable rate drifts upward. It usually comes back down and settles right after that, because I think when you guys probably began this discussion, I believe the variable rate was 2.25, if not a little higher than that. So it's drifted back down to 0.94 on one and 1.35 on the other. So as the chair said, we know that interest rates go one of 3 directions. They either go up, they go down, or they stay the same. But usually we see 2 spikes throughout the year, and I imagine it has to do with a lot of people taking advantage of tax situations, personal tax situations, and getting out of municipal debt.
I think we've only had one payment this year to go over 3. That right, Randy, we had 3.05 or something like that. Maybe. Does that sound close? And most of them have been under that. Roll the dice, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what to tell you. We wanted to hear from him, and he's here to explain all of it to you. So we've actually heard from 2 people.
Well, if I understand what he's telling us, the first 3 years payment will be $350,000 down, I think, over 3 years.
And it's just based on the principal redemption.
And then if we have to, you don't pay extra.
Yes. Yeah, as you pay extra, it comes off the back end. So not only would your interest costs go down, but also your out years would go down as well.
What's that figure been in the first 3 years?
For the 2016.
All right, so the 2016
Okay,
one,
go ahead. Make sure I was straight on the minutes.
And $150,000 on
233,
And then 220, and it decreased approximately 10,000 per year, 176,500. On 2016.
176,000, and then the jail would be Justice Center would be 122, 450.
When the high school was set up in 2002, what projection did they use interest rate wise?
5%.
So we've been putting 5%.
5% is what it was set up on. I don't think we paid 5%. He made the time that you run.
I don't think, that's on y'all's.
We haven't, Randy. We've, same club anyway.
So that,
Your average rate, I'm sorry to interrupt, I
Go ahead, go ahead.
your average rate on that loan is 1.89%.
So we've been accruing extra funding, is that mechanism?
I don't know, I assume it's been accumulating.
It has to be because you had spent it. If you estimate it 5%, and if you,
It's been 2%. Less than.
so.
Set up on 5%, and it said it averaged 1.89.
Probably going into the, where's that money go when it gets in? Where's that,
Good, good.
in the debt service? Is that-
3.1% each year.
I guess,
I can help you on that.
Yeah.
My conversation with the previous mayor, somebody was running, I said, I don't want to answer that. But that money does come from the wheel tax.
Yep.
It's legislated, only used for the school. So any extra money can be reserved account. That's one of the reasons why that payment from the school has been lessened over the last couple of years, is because of those employees that have come.
That's right.
Now, how much?
But it's there, so.
Yes, and, but here, in by statute, that money can only be used for education debt service. But you could use it to pay it off a little bit,
That's
but
right.
you won't want to pay it off early because you got a low rate.
any more questions from Mr. Kevin? Thank you for your
Thank you.
help.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I guess, commission, for the mayor, will let you know what we decide to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, appreciate your time.
Next on our agenda is discussion request. Any request or discussions that you want to do? Claire, I know when you got some.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've talked a couple of times, I had a citizen request came in, asked me to pass along to the county commission, considering a property tax freeze for, it would be low income, senior citizens and also people who are disabled and own their own home. I will say this issue came before the county commission in 2008 and it did not pass at that time. I think I sent out an email earlier this week with all the information that I had on it. And I wish I could say I can give you a lot more information, but as far as the property tax freeze, there was a fax paper that included it, had 40-something questions. I think it's very thorough. I will say there's also another program that that same demographic can take advantage of. It's called Property Tax Relief Program. That's through the state. It doesn't require any action by the county. And that's basically a reimbursement program for anybody that files and qualifies. They would come in, file their application. If they qualify the first year, they pay the full amount of their property tax, and then they submit something to the state, and the state sends them a check for the reimbursement amount. The second year thereafter, it's my understanding that they would come in and get that discounted amounts right off the bat. So they don't pay the full tax amount, they get that discounted amount, and then the state reimburses the county directly. Whereas the tax-free program, if they freeze it at the current, it's my understanding it's the dollar amount, not the tax rate, it's the dollar amount. If you freeze it at that amount and then you go up in taxes, that doesn't raise for that, people to qualify for that. They can also qualify for both programs at the same time. So, and that's something, talking to the trustee's office today, she would caution us to take this very slowly and make sure we understand what all the implications are. There are some surrounding counties that have this. I believe Smith County also has this in effect, and she's gonna reach out and, to the trustee, and I don't wanna put Mr. Bell on the spot. If he's got something he wants to add, that's fine, but I don't wanna.
I actually pulled the resolution that we did back in 2008, and I didn't have, I wanted to bring it tonight, and I left it on my desk, so I apologize, but I can get that to you. Leanne Williams, trustee for Smith County, would be a really good person to speak with about that, I read that on the news. And it's, we had it really good, it's working.
If anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them. I did go through and kind of highlight some things here in the facts section of this. Excuse me. It says who establishes the income limit, which I think currently that's set by the comptroller, and I think currently it's around $26,000 is what the income limit is. Who determines eligibility? Well, that's the collecting official, so they'd submit that to Ms. Carmen's office. They have to provide proof of age, ownership of the property, and proof of income. And they have to reapply every year. So if they apply 1 year and then don't go back the next year, then that freeze goes away. They have to reapply every year.
You're saying this freezes the amount that they pay on their
Right.
taxes, their taxes wouldn't go up. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, sir. It freezes at the current dollar amount that's due. It's irregardless of what the tax rate is. It's the actual dollar amount itself that freezes.
So it wouldn't go down.
That's something that Ms. Carmen asked me. My assumption is, and Mr. Beller can correct me if I'm wrong, if you don't file the second year and then your taxes drop, I would assume you get that lower rate if you didn't file for the freeze the second year, but I'm not exactly sure on that. That's one of the things we wanted to research and make sure what the implication was. This is just something I got contacted on this last weekend. I talked to Mr. Ford a couple of times. He thought it would be good to bring it in front of the committee, to let the committee know that this was a concern from some of the citizens in the county and see your initial thoughts on it. If you decide we want to do more investigation, to go forward on that. But at this point, I would caution about taking any action here today until we know more further what the implications of this are.
Any more questions on that? What do you think about it?
It sounds like something to research more,
Yeah, I think so.
jump
But
into something.
if we could help the elderly in our county, if anybody needs it, those should do it with it. Anything I learned when I run for county executive many years ago, going to the homes of these elderly people, they're lonely, you can't get away from them, they will talk to you, and the next thing they'll tell you is, please don't raise my taxes. How many times did I hear that about 15, 20 years ago? I don't think times have changed any at all. I think it is as hard as it were then. So if we could help the elderly in our county, it would be absolutely be a group of people that needs it.
The elders is this thing. That's the two that's going to affect most.
Yeah, that's the ones gonna hurt. Most of them are living on a fixed income, they're not gonna get a raise, and you raise your taxes on them, then they've got to adjust somewhere. Believe it or not, a lot of them wind up doing like medicine because they can't buy it, they can't afford it. That's a shame part of it. That's neither here nor there. The mayor brought, he and I sat down and talked about it the other day at length, and I think it'd be a great thing if we could just reach out and help those people that need it, that can't help themselves.
Need a motion on this or anything tonight?
No, I would caution against making any motions tonight. Ms. Carmen wanted to see what the committee thought. If the committee wanted to do more research, she's gonna reach out to some of the counties that do this, especially our neighboring counties. Sumner County does it, Smith County does it, Wilson County does it. She's gonna reach out to the trustees in those counties and kind of see what all the implications are of that, and then gather more information. So I would rather go through that process, because right now, I can't tell you what all the implications of this are. I can tell you, I checked our latest census estimate, it says that 14.8% of the citizens in the county are over age 65. Now, what Ms. Carmen did give me is that the people who are in the county that basically have the same qualifications for the tax relief program and the tax freeze program, we have approximately 161 that have qualified for the tax relief program, and I believe that's about $43,000 to $45,000 is what that relief was for this most recent tax year.
Well, I'm thinking is we need a motion to let them do that.
I don't think that would require a motion, because you're wanting us to get more information and bring it back for you, so that if the committee just says this, they think this is something, and it seems to be that it is, that's something we can do, and I don't think that really requires a motion, because that, just a request on the executive branch, and we'll try to gather that information for you.
About you in the work session, we'll have enough information on it.
I think really what I'm seeing and feeling from the group is that they would like you to go ahead with it without anything on the books as far as motions or whatever. Go ahead and see what the implications are and see how you feel about it after you get more material like Brandon saw about Brandon. I think it'd be a great thing. be a great thing we can do for the people. Do you have a comment, Mr. Dickey?
Yeah, what about, you know, you talk about the tax, where you, all these, what about the electric companies? I could get funds for that, for helping them on electric bills?
Well, that could be under different programs. There are assistance programs out there, but this is just for tax purposes.
I think the one thing that come into play there as much as anything is the qualifications.
$26,000 a year salary. That's what you're saying.
What?
$26,000 a year.
Yeah, that's what it currently is. It's refigured every year based on different statistics, and it's done on a county by county basis. It's currently $26,000. So they have to be 65 or older, own their own home, have 26,000 income or less, and it has to be verifiable, and that aggregates Social Security, retirement accounts, everything. And if they're married with a spouse, that also then incorporate their income as well.
Worst case scenario, 161 people with less, 43,000 less revenue coming in if they all apply to it.
That is the number that's participated in the tax relief program. It's bounced back and forth, but around 161.
So what you freezing is on anything that the tax rate raised, they wouldn't pay the extra. They'd stay where they are.
To do that each year.
Yes, they have to refile and re-qualify every year. So if they filed 1 year and qualified, then the next year they won the lottery, well, they're not gonna qualify the second year because their income goes above the qualification level.
Yes, Mr. Dickey.
On the tax rate, property for 65 over and ever, I give you a number. My mother, she's so scared, afraid to do it because she's afraid that government will come in and get a property and all that. Like, I don't think that.
They can't do that.
No, they.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
I'd say most of them, if they renovate,
Yes, they know about it.
Any other comments? The time's about up. Any other business to come before us? Yes, Commissioner.
Make a motion to adjourn.
And a second by Mr. Harris. Not debatable. All in favor say aye. We stand adjourned in the Budget and Finance Committee.
1857. 1857.
What do you call this?
No, 1857. I'm recording the minutes here. I'm doing my job.
Good job tonight. Wow.
I'm not gonna do that good of a job. I'm gonna do my job. I don't want it.
2008.
You're in here. What was under who? Jerry? Is that Jerry King?